Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Another video here. Just wanna, this one's gonna be a little bit more complicated than my other ones, and I'm gonna show the master sequence and on SPY. Now, I'm not gonna claim that this is, the all God-knowing truth of where the stock is gonna go, but I think if I show it to you and you start to, I guess, try and read between the lines of this, you'll start having a lot of questions about our market and the system in general. So, I guess to get started here, on the left, well, what's annoying is it's hard to fit the sequence or split it into two screens here. But so I'm just gonna start labeling tops. So three tops. Okay. And it's important to consider like the the bottoms of these structures, right? So okay. So the white box is kind of where I think we are currently. This is basically why I was talking so much about this being a historical rally. No one's going to expect it. It's going to blow everyone away because you can see on the right just like how ridiculous that structure looks. And if you look at this, if you go back to the chart on your own, you look at the structure and you just kind of go back throughout time, you'll see that the stock does this quite a fair bit. You can see behaviors of that rally, just like in this run here, but it made the new low was extensive. I'm trying to make it. You can see, yeah, so you can see behaviors of this in this structure here, and you can also see it in this structure here. Now, what's going to get really, really complicated about this video is trying to show where we are in this rally, right? What's really interesting, so now I don't need to split the screen because you have an idea of, what we're looking at, right? I can go out on the daily, right? Actually, let me see. So if I zoom out like this, I need to go out farther. All right, so I'm just gonna switch between the two screens here, so that if I just go back and forth like this, maybe you'll start to see some sort of similarity, right? It's the difficult thing about, you know, fractals is how mutated that the structure gets, right? But, you know, with a little bit of critical thinking, you can kind of figure out where the stock can go, right? Or at least you can figure out the bias, right? So from the fractal, you learn the bias. From the bias, you can trade the trend easier. And based off of the trend, you can tell how, not exactly, but you can tell how news or fundamentals can get thwarted. So now that we have that out of the way, here's the mind-blowing part. So this is what I noticed. So what we just experienced, right, the last 2 days. I can split my screen for this, actually. So this is what we're playing out, right? This is the master sequence, right? So we've played this from the beginning. You know, we had this this breakdown here. I think this was, doesn't matter. But we you know, we had this this centerpiece, right? And we've had that rally with the you know, this whole rally right here was represented, you know, in this run up here. And so we've had all that. We had the dig down. So we're playing out this, right? Keep this in mind, right? Keep this in mind. We're playing out this top, but what's really interesting that I noticed today is that the top structure was actually like the last 2 days we kind of got these two signatures, right? So it's like here is this guy and here is this guy. Now it doesn't, I guess if I zoom out a little bit more, maybe you could see it. And then if I zoom in a little bit more, you might be able to see. The behaviors here are extremely similar in my opinion. Now if we break this down, like on a deep level, this part right here, like that sideways consolidation, I think is represented in, you know, in this area where, you know, the stock goes just insanely high and it retraces and then it pops up, goes sideways, and then continues to make a higher high. And the higher high breaks down all the way, you know, well, I guess like not to this section completely, but like, you know, here, where this markup is kind of the beginning of it, right? And now what I think we're going to see is, continuation higher, and we're going to play out the top, the high. We're there, to put it straight. So if I try and like chart the top of this structure, right now, before I do that, right, I just want to like say how weird it is that this right here was seen at the top of like this is essentially what we're seeing play out, right? This whole rally, this sequence, right? It's just stretched, and we're seeing it unfold from at least what I see. We're seeing it unfold at the top. And so what we're getting essentially is the top, like what the last run is going to be for the next month, before the drop of, over the next month, is we're just going to see, this what we're seeing, or what we've seen before. So we're going to see this play out to form the last top, right? Because we already got this. So we're going to see this whole section played out on a more micro scale, to form this last top. And if I draw a trend, just doing like basic TA stuff, you can see that where we could go for tomorrow, at least, is, well, actually, so we're supposed to make a higher high tomorrow. And the tough thing about this, and what I've learned after my mistakes tracking this, is it doesn't matter how much higher the higher high is, right? It could be a cent, and the reason to break down would be there, right? Like the top here is 458.32, so it could come up just above that and break down. Now here's where it gets a little crazy, because we're going to see this rally form, and because I believe that we have seen this play out to form the top of this structure, right? Like we've seen this thrown onto the top to form the top. I think what we're going to see then is, because that we've checked off of this structure, right? So we've done this, now oh my god. Now we're going to see this, and then after we get that, it's the run to the top. And after this signature forms, that's where you would go or become net bearish. And then we would have to put our heads into the books and then start trying to track it differently, because it will change a little. Up and down swings have different characteristics. So because this next section makes a higher high, right? So if you can see that, right? So this is what we have yet to see play out, and it's going to go above the recent high, and the recent high is this 458.32, and it comes down pretty dang far before going back up. Trying to figure out where that comes to exactly is the difficult part. And this is why I'm making it public, because I think I'm onto something here with regards to the pattern, but I'm not a pro at scaling it or whatever. It's proven to be quite the monster of a challenge. So I figure making it public is not, it's not going to be the biggest thing in the world. And other people, you might know how to scale it. You might know how to track it better than I can. So that's why I want to show it. And so when this comes down, I think we have to wait for the upswing to form, because you can see, if we want to try and find any level where it could bounce, there is, in this upswing movement, in this bounce, there is a wick located right there, and it comes down to meet that. So maybe, we'll see, maybe we'll see something like this. And then tomorrow it'll come down and meet this wick. Maybe it just comes down to hit the trend again. That's what's wild about this. It just doesn't make, if let's just think about it. Let's think about it literally. If we think about it literally, this is where I think it would come down to. It would just do this, hit the middle, and then break above this trend and just keep going. And is how I see it. Because FOMC is on 13th, and I strongly, since the beginning, I believe that the stock needs to go to all-time highs before the Fed meeting, right? And then once that occurs, the excuse to break down is there. Now, I've heard people say there's nothing that could cause a drop besides cutting rates, and that raising rates would be exponentially terrible. And so maybe they cut rates, but I'm confused because, maybe they do cut rates, maybe they do. Either way, whatever their decision is, I'm going to have conviction on a full retrace of this entire structure. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking about. And it's just, it still blows my mind how we're seeing just like the fractal movement of this is mind blowing, and it's confusing. You know, it stumps me. So I think what that would mean, looking at the top structure here. So on the left, this is the zoomed in section of the top here, right? So this is what that top looks like. And on the right is where we are within the channel that we've been in for the past 2 weeks. And I'm thinking that we're going to see this tomorrow. We're going to see this top tomorrow. And then when the chairman, Jerome Powell, speaks, we're going to get the bottom of that phase. And as a matter of fact, let me just zoom out a little bit to make it look like way more similar. I think this would make it even more telling. Because this, you see this? Look at that, man. You know? You see what I'm saying? And so, you know, it looks like we have 1, 2, and then based off of tomorrow, right, we'll have 3 higher highs. What do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So tomorrow will be the 3rd, and then we'll come down pretty hard. I don't know where that will, you know, I'm not going to say I know where that'll stop, but it's got to be the limit of it would be the bottom of the trend. And it would make sense to me if I was some sort of governing force of the market to try and remove the limitations and get this to come down outside of the trend, because that would scare a lot of people. Like, okay, that was the top, right? Maybe PCE is saying, you know, higher rates for longer, right? And it's like really pushing that narrative. Then it could come down here, end of the day, come up and like reject it, and then in the morning, you know, it consolidates, and then Powell starts talking, and it closes up, goes sideways, and then begins the run to all-time highs, where the market will see some crazy things. And it's just going to be an incredible thing to watch. I'm learning every single day more and more about this. And it's just wild to see it play out, because, you know, in the past, this section was vertical, right? So, or I mean, it wasn't exactly vertical, but I guess if you could try and figure out a trend line to draw, right? It still lines up. But what really scared me today, because today looked like a top, you know, in my opinion. Like if we zoom out a little bit more and we look at this top structure, do you see like how curvy it looks at the top? I thought that this top was the top. And I want you to keep in mind one important thing. And I was thinking about this a lot today. When it dropped, when it crashed, whatever synonym you want to use, it left a 1 cent gap. Look, ready? Right here, you see this? Right here. When it started its drop, it left this 1 cent gap. When it begins, I believe or I think that it will leave a gap like this. If the gap is there, then a bull market is in the cards, right? So no crash is going to happen. It's just a correction. So if we see this gap, it's okay, right? And you'll just have to wait a little bit before, you know, if you have any investments, that is, you'll just probably have to wait a little bit. But I want to keep in mind that that this 1 minute gap could pop up. And what scared me today was that's exactly what we got during the breakdown today. You see this gap here? Well, I saw this 1 minute gap after the structure looked similar, and I was freaking out because I was like, "Well, wait a minute, did I get it? There's no all-time high. Did I get it wrong? Is this going to start? You know, is this going to be it?" Now, I have to wait and see, right? If that gap doesn't get filled tomorrow, and it just breaks down from PCE, then yeah, that's the top. And what we'll end up seeing is we'll see a drop into FOMC. It'll be a pretty big drop. Like I'm talking bad, right? Like I mean, like this sequence is pretty brutal, and you know it'll drop, I don't know, 2-3% or something, and then it'll just do, I don't know, it'll just consolidate up into FOMC. You know, it'll go lower than this. It'll go down, like down, right? Like sick, like really bad, right? If this is the case, and then it'll just consolidate in FOMC, whatever they decide. If it, you know, then that's where it will drop and make a lower low, and then the sequence is over. The whole rally sequence is over, and then we'll get a retrace into consolidation, and then the next bull market will, you know, will start to form. And where that would leave us then is playing out this. Like, you know, think about how long it's taken to play out this, right? Have we seen the top yet? I don't know, but we're really close. So think about how long it's taken to get to that point. Now, imagine stretching out this, and then how long that this upswing would take, right? So if that 1 minute gap is there, it'll come back up to fill it, but there's a lot to watch for. And in my earlier videos where I talked about, you know, there's a decision point of the fractal. Well, I was convinced that this section here was like the decision maker, right? So if it were to break below this level, then you'll have a 2008 crash, right? But I'm thinking at this point, what we've seen so far, every time that this plays out, it just goes higher. That's just what I've seen. However, so like this is, so it just gets deeper. It gets even deeper because that's where we're at. This is what we're playing out. You know, we're playing out this, right? And supposedly, I think we're here, right? So if I am right about it being a decision point, right? Maybe it doesn't go up here. Maybe instead of going up here, PC is bad, and then it goes down and breaks below, right? And then we'll see we'll see this section play out. You see what I'm saying? There's so many things, so many levels to this. And either way, it's like the move is large, you know? So there are ways to capitalize, but it's definitely just a tricky situation. And so, you know, we weren't able to get this gap fill here in after hours, which I'm surprised. And I think the reason for that is that it's still possible that it doesn't fill, and then we just drop down to 430s, and you know and that this was the top of the structure, right? So if we do fill it, then I think, yeah, we'll get those two more higher highs, and we'll still be able to get to all-time high before Fed. If this gap gets filled, because that would show you that the algorithm is respecting a bull phase still, right? If it continues to tread sideways, or we gap down or something, or actually futures look fine, so I think futures we're going to gap up probably above this gap. So I think we're okay, right? But it's still something that you want to keep in mind, and you know, you draw this trend out for yourself. And then here are my points right here. Once we hit, or just if you don't want to draw the trend, as soon as we go above 458.32, you know, just get ready for the retrace, and that retrace could come all the way down to 455, right? I mean, that's just, these scalps are insane, and absolutely insane, and the fact that it's moving like this, in my opinion, relatively slow, and it's weak, just shows me that the system is on its last, like, you know, it's got its like dying breath right now. It just wants to drop. The sell orders want to come through, but you know, it's just playing with the algorithm, and that's what's so brutal about it. GameStop, oh my god. Yeah, a couple, yeah, I think it was like 2 or 3 videos ago, I said that I wanted to see 18 filled before earnings, the 18 gap, and we're really close. And if tomorrow's bullish, then, you know, we could do that. And here's what's crazy. I don't know if GameStop wants a daily gap here. Because if this is playing out according to its own master sequence, right, then I think after it fills the 18 gap before Fed, right? So like, think about how SPY wants to make a higher high if it's bullish, right? It wants to make a higher high and then come all the way back down, right? Like the next, like, we all thought that this day was brutal with these moves. But I think that this next one is going to be a little rougher. Well, go to GameStop, for example, and you'll see that, you know, this is it. This is, you know, this was the bottom forever. 1183 was the bottom, in my opinion, forever. I think that this is just so telling. And so after it fills the 18 gap, what I think it's going to do is, because of the daily gap, it's just going to come down to fill it. You know? And then this will be Friday. And then, you know, and then it can just kind of, or maybe not exactly fill it on Friday. Maybe just a big red day, honestly. And then maybe on Monday, something. I think this gap is going to get filled regardless. And then, you know, the day before earnings, it'll pop up, and then that's where you'll have your run to 28 or some. It's going to be absolutely crazy. Actually, I mean, this is gonna be wild because the way that it should work, this is how I think it should work. Because this, I'm thinking about this as being the bottom, right? And I'm trying to think how it lines up with the market correction. This is basically where the gap is, the daily gap. So so what I think it should do is come up, fill the gap, and then just absolutely tank. Yep, I know. Just shit the bed, right? Comes up again. And actually, let's see, where is so earnings is here. And so maybe it bounces. And I want it to get back up above 18 before earnings. And then just do this. Right? That way, when the market correction takes place, and you're above, you're above 27, it comes up all the way, right? It comes up to here. That way, when the market correction takes place, there's an excuse for it to just melt back down, and then because there's going to be a daily gap on earnings, right? So wherever the daily gap takes place is where it has to retrace to, and at least what I think. And then if there's a daily gap below that gap, then I think that's a bearish case, because then you're gonna basically force the stock to fill that, because there's nowhere. I mean, unless the daily gap just never gets filled or something, I don't know what to think exactly, but I think if the I don't know, but whatever does happen, I'm certain that after it hits the high, well, actually, because it's on the earnings are on the 6th, FOMC is on the 13th, so maybe it doesn't just melt up to 28 from earnings, right? So, it's wrong to think it could go up, 20 or whatever, and then just a couple more, like, daily gaps, daily gap ups, right? And then it'll come down to retrace that. But, still, I mean, this is just, I'm so surprised, because I had calls. It's funny, man. It's really funny. I had calls here, right? This is where I bought them, because I figured that, this was the bounce right here, because CPI had come out. It was bullish. It seemed like the market was biased towards the upside. And then it would, it would take a couple of weeks to come up and fill 18 or fill these gaps up here. But instead, it just dug down and filled them in like 2 or 3 days. And I just, or I mean, really what happened was, I bought calls when earnings were supposed to be on the 12th. And then after I sold them, earnings were, got an early release update. So that's my luck right there. So yeah, that was the master sequence. That's what I'm thinking about right now. If tomorrow, like, we could gap down here from PCE, and that should tell you that this is the top. Because technically, we didn't get, so we didn't really get 4 higher highs yet. But if you wanted to, maybe you could say that this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and that what we're gonna see is 4. And so go on your own time if possible. I recommend trying to track this thing because you'll see a lot of similar behaviors, and I think it's pretty convincing, right? So that's all I have. I think definitely a long video, 40 minutes. Wow, 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 wow. But yeah, guys, I hope I piqued your interest. I hope you consider this, and I hope your trades go well. And until next time, peace.